Did my card go through?
Oh no.
Your small business depends on its internet. So switch to Verizon Business. And you could get LTE business internet starting at $39 a month when paired with select business mobile plans. That's unlimited data for unlimited business.
There we go.
Get the internet you need at the price you want. Verizon Business. Starting price for LTE business internet, 25 megabits per second unlimited data plan with select Verizon Business smartphone plan savings. Terms apply.
Año Nuevo. Los mismos Extra Value Meals en McDonald's. Ahora te puedes llevar 2 snack wraps y papitas y una bebida mediana por solo $8. Solo por tiempo limitado. Precios y participación pueden variar. Los precios pueden ser más altos en Hawái, Alaska y California y con entrega.
Welcome to Her Extraordinary Life by Design, where we celebrate women who are shaping their lives one extraordinary day at a time. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet, self-care coach for women who are ready to make self-care a priority to support them in life and business. Every week, I'll be speaking with inspiring women from various walks of life who will share their personal journeys and will discover how they have fearlessly carved their own paths as business owners, passionately pursuing their dreams and creating a meaningful impact on their communities. So let's get started. Hello, and welcome back to Extraordinary Life by Design podcast. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet. And as we step into 2026, I want to name something fast, and I want you to notice if this is true for you. If you started this year already thinking about what's next, didn't really ease to January, right? You stepped into it already engaged. Because here's what I see every January, especially for us high achievers. It's not that we're unclear about what we want for this year, like what we set for our goals, our motivation for the next things that we have, the next steps. It's that we're already managing ourselves, meaning you're not confused and you're not lacking discipline. You're moving, but you're also monitoring your movement. You're planning, but you're also bracing just a little, like your body's getting ready for a year that it has to hold together. Your calendar looks fine. Your priorities are clear because you know what you want, but your system, it's already on. So you're already checking your pace. You're already trying to make sure that everything's planned out perfectly so that nothing slips, which means your year feels like it's starting with pressure. Not because anything's wrong per se, but because your momentum is being held up by staying tight, by staying ready, and by staying slightly ahead of yourself. So in this episode, we're not doing a motivation reset. We're doing a support reset because momentum doesn't need more management. It needs something underneath it so it feels supported, not supervised. Let me tell you what I mean. We've just finished the first full week of January, right? It's Friday. Sat down to start your day. You felt motivated, already knowing what mattered for today. You have a few priorities you actually care about. Made sure your calendar reflects that, and your to-do list is manageable. It's reasonable. And as the morning's moving along, you're starting to notice something small, nothing dramatic, just noticeable. And you start recognizing that while you're moving forward, you're also keeping an eye on yourself, meaning you're working hard, but part of your attention is tracking your pace. You're making progress, but you're already managing yourself to make sure you don't lose it, meaning you're managing your pace as if momentum needs supervision, even though it's moving cleanly on its own, right? Everything's on point. There's no fires put out, no pressure from the outside, no reason to push. And yet internally, you're managing. You're managing your energy, you're managing your focus, you're managing your pace. That's the part we don't often notice while it's happening because while everything is working, you're productive, you're capable, you're doing what you said you'd do. By the end of the day, you feel it more, like that keeping your pace took more energy from you than it usually does when momentum feels clean, because your momentum was being held together instead of supported. And this is the distinction I want you to see. The issue is not your year ahead of you. It's not what's on your plate for these next, 12 weeks. If you're a 12-week girl like me, I do the 12-week year. But even the next few days, today, the next month, few months, it's not what's on your plate. It's not what you planned out. It's how much energy that you're using just to keep your momentum intact. And that's what we're going to lean into today. And if this feels familiar, it's because this isn't a one-off moment. It's a way of moving you've been carrying for a while now. And it's important for you to notice this because it has nothing to do with motivation. You haven't lost it. It has nothing to do with clarity. You know exactly what you want and where you're headed. You didn't forget how to lead yourself. What you're noticing now is more subtle. You could feel that momentum, and at the same time, you could feel how much effort it's taking to keep that momentum steady. Because momentum can exist and still feel heavy, not because you're doing anything wrong, but because of what your energy is being asked to do underneath the movement. So here's what we're going to look at together. We're going to unpack why momentum can be present and still feel heavy, even when everything looks like it's working, and why part of your energy is being used to supervise your pace instead of support it. We're going to dive into the difference between managed energy and supported energy, not as a concept, but as something you can feel in your body while you're moving. We're going to look at why clarity starts to wobble when energy has no structure beneath it, why you can know what matters and still feel unsettled inside your decisions. And then we're going to talk about what actually stabilizes momentum before your decisions accelerate. Not more planning, not tighter control, but the kind of internal support that lets momentum move without holding it together all day. This isn't about changing your pace. It's about changing what your pace is built on. Now, there's this belief that runs underneath the way you move that most women would never say out loud because it feels like the reason everything works and that it's essential to staying on track. And it sounds like if I ease up even a little, I might miss something that matters. If I'm not paying close attention, momentum won't hold on its own. Not because you don't trust yourself, but because somewhere along the way, you've learned that staying closely attuned to everything is what's keeping it all from unraveling. And the deeper belief is that your momentum only stays intact if you're actively managing yourself. And there's a layer beneath that part that can feel uncomfortable to admit is that if you relax your internal grip, you might lose your edge. If you stop monitoring, something important might fall through. And if you're not slightly tense, you're not fully engaged. So you stay on. Just alert enough, just vigilant enough, because vigilance has always worked. You've always been self-directed. You know how to push when needed. You know how to override when required. Pressure has kept you sharp. Monitoring has kept you moving. And for a long time, this has served you. It's worked in seasons where your output, because you had tight deadlines, maybe because of how you structured it and maybe didn't give yourself enough time. That output really mattered more than having that sustainable energy because you needed to get things done. Where speed mattered more than steadiness, where keeping everything moving was the win. But here's where it starts to break down. Because the belief that you have to manage your momentum doesn't fail you when things feel hard. Responding to pressure is something that you've always known how to do. It fails you when things feel fine, when nothing's urgent, when the day's on point, when momentum is already there. Because now that same belief around that you have to manage your momentum, it's asking you to use energy not to fuel your momentum, but rather to maintain it, which means that your energy isn't going towards creation, it's going towards supervision. And that's why momentum can exist and still feel heavy, because part of your energy is being spent watching yourself move. And so here's what I want you to understand. Momentum doesn't collapse without management, okay? It collapses when energy has no system supporting it. When your momentum's supported, it carries you. When it's managed, it costs you. And that belief that momentum only stays intact if you stay on top of yourself is the assumption that's been shaping how your energy moves, even when everything looks like it's working. So once you see that belief that's running underneath your momentum, the question naturally changes from what do I need to fix to what's this actually costing me, even on those days that look good, because the cost of managed energy doesn't show up as collapse. It shows up as constant holding. And that's why it's so easy to normalize. And most likely the first place you're going to feel it is in your body. It's going to show up as maybe a low grade tension that you've learned to live with, where your shoulders don't fully relax. You catch yourself holding your breath without realizing it. Or your body never quite settles. You're never fully off, meaning you're always on. When your energy is being managed instead of supported, there's no natural point where your system stands down because you stay engaged, alert, and monitoring so that by the end of the day, there's less of you available than you expected for things outside of work that add quality to your life, like things like being fully present with your kids, settling into some quality time with your partner, or relaxing without mentally replaying your day, or having energy left over to enjoy time out with your friends. And then there's the cost to your focus, because then your attention is right. You're working, but you're also checking yourself. Am I pacing this right? Did I move too fast there? Do I need to rein this in? Was that the right move? Those are small internal kind of corrections, adjustments, and ongoing self checks that never really fully turn off, which means your focus doesn't disappear. It just gets crowded. So even when you sit down and do something important, there's less spaciousness, less ease, right? There's more effort required just to settle in, because part of your attention has been busy supervising you. And lastly, what I want to talk about when it comes to your momentum is that your momentum doesn't stop, because you're still moving, you're still executing, you're still showing up at a high level. But sustaining that pace starts to take more effort than it should, because your momentum starts to feel controlled instead of natural. Starts to feel maintained instead of carried. And because this has been normal for so long, you don't notice how much energy that control is using, that's eating up, until movement itself starts to feel heavier. So here's what I want you to let land right now. If you're tired because you feel like you're doing too much, it's not necessarily that you're moving too fast, doing too much, doing the wrong things. It's more likely because your energy has been assigned a second job. And that second job has been to hold you together while you move. You see, managed energy asks you to stay vigilant, to always stay on, but when you support your energy, that lets you stay present. Managed energy requires supervision, but supported energy creates that stability underneath everything. And when your energy has no structure to rest on, clarity can't stay, because knowing isn't the same as being supported while you move towards whatever it is that you're working on. Again, this isn't about slowing down. It's about catching the shift in your energy before your body turns it into effort. And this is the cost I want you to see. Now, if you pause for a moment, there's something that you might recognize in yourself. And it doesn't always show up when you're busy. It doesn't always surface when you're producing or executing. It usually appears in the brief spaces between things. There's an awareness that staying steady takes effort. You start to realize that, not because your pace is wrong, but because of how much you're holding while you move. It is not about wanting or having fewer responsibilities, because you're not looking to do less with your life. What you're wanting to do is to be able to move without having to brace. You want to begin your day already grounded, not just clear, right? To feel oriented inside yourself before the first decision is required. You want momentum that feels self-sustaining, not something you have to monitor, regulate, or keep an eye on to make sure it doesn't slip. An energy that stays with you as the day unfolds. Energy that doesn't quickly erode, that doesn't require constant internal management to preserve. And focus that's intact when you return to it, where you can step away and come back into a task without needing to reassemble yourself, without feeling scattered across the multiple decisions that you've already made. And you don't want to manage yourself anymore. You don't want to keep tracking your pace. You don't want to keep checking whether you're calibrated correctly. You don't want steadiness to depend on vigilance. Instead, you want your pace to feel stable inside your body, where speed doesn't create tension, where momentum doesn't require recovery later. And to be able to trust that you can move decisively without wondering what it's costing you behind the scenes, so that when you make decisions, they're complete, right? When you make them, no mental residue, no open loops, no delayed second guessing that shows up hours later when your attention is meant to be elsewhere. And you want your days to feel whole when they're done, where your energy stays with you, your clarity remains intact, and your momentum supports you instead of drawing from you. And when you recognize this, it doesn't mean that you're dissatisfied with your life. It means that you're ready for your energy to support how you move instead of constantly adjusting to it. This is usually the moment where something changes, when you start to become really aware of it, not because you've reached some new level of clarity, but because something inside of you has realized that you want to stop pushing. You realize that you've been orienting yourself around the wrong questions, like, how do I keep this going? How do I keep my pace clean? How do I make sure nothing slips? How do I stay sharp without losing ground? These questions that you been asking have been shaping how you move more than you realize because they taught you how to stay just slightly ahead of yourself, to anticipate, to monitor, to adjust before anything actually goes wrong. And the important thing for you to understand is that this way of moving has worked. It's kept you responsive. It's kept everything running. But what I want you to understand is that what's changing is that it's not that you're not capable. It's that you're becoming aware of the cost to you. You start to notice how early your system turns on and maybe stays on, how quickly your body braces before your day asks anything of you, how often you check in with your pace without realizing that you're doing it. And you start noticing how much attention goes into holding yourself together. And when this finally clicks, you realize you weren't managing momentum because you didn't trust yourself. You realize you were managing your momentum because your energy didn't feel supported underneath. So your awareness, in essence, became the structure, your vigilance became the container, and then your self monitoring became the infrastructure. So once you see that, you realize that you've been judging yourself from this place that maybe that you feel like I have to push harder. And of course, you might think that you learned to move this way. Your system stepped in. You're high performing. You're moving at speed in a world that rewards responsiveness and output. But maybe up until now, you've not realized, and no one's maybe ever showed you where your energy can rest. They've only showed you how to perform. You've only shown your energy how to perform. So the shift doesn't come from effort. It comes from recognizing this. You begin to notice how much of your energy has been engaged before the work even begins. The readiness, the attention, the internal posture of being prepared. This isn't about slowing down. Again, I want to make sure that I reiterate that. It's not about pulling back. It's not about doing less. It's about what your energy is standing on while you move. Because when your energy has nowhere to land, it stays suspended. And suspended energy requires management. It needs supervision. It needs constant correction. But when your energy is supported, it behaves differently because suddenly it starts to settle better, not into stillness, but into steadiness. It's why I created the aligned energy system, my framework that I created for women who want to sustain their pace, protect their bandwidth, and lead their lives from steadiness, not survival mode. You see, high achieving women like us don't lose energy because we can't keep up. We lose energy because we learn to override our system in the name of performance. And the aligned energy system changes that. It's not about slowing down. It's not about doing less. It's about learning how to work with your body's energy rhythms instead of against them so that your success no longer depends on how much you can push, but on how intentionally you lead yourself, where you learn to master what you refuse to notice, where you know where you override your own knowing. And you understand that the awareness piece is really important because it's how you begin to translate your system's cues before they turn into exhaustion, frustration, or emotional shutdown. And then you match your pace, you match your capacity, which is your alignment piece, because sustaining momentum is the natural result of working in alignment with your energy, not against it. And then you apply it by taking one small action to return to steadiness. And when I say application, it's how you teach your system to trust you again, where you stop needing your weekends to recover from your week, where you stop equating rest with falling behind, where you stop confusing stillness, stagnation, and where you start leading your energy with clarity, intention, and self-trust. Again, this is the reason why I created this framework, because I really wanted to be able to provide you with something that could help you to really create this space where your energy is supported before it's spent in ways that don't support your flow. So instead of bracing as you move, you feel carried. Instead of monitoring yourself, you feel grounded. Instead of managing momentum, you experience it sustaining itself. And at first, you'll probably notice it in your body because then your shoulders will start to drop without instruction, right? Your breath will deepen without effort. Your focus will steady without force. You still move quickly, but you're no longer gripping the wheel, right? You're not standing for what might go wrong. You're not using attention, the constant monitoring as a safety mechanism. Your momentum stays in top form. Your edge remains sharp. Your effectiveness doesn't disappear. If anything, things feel clearer, feel cleaner. Your decisions feel more complete. Your transitions feel smoother. Your day feels That's fragmented, not because you're controlling it better, but because your energy finally has somewhere to rest and reset. This is the shift I'm talking about. Momentum doesn't need management, it needs support. Not support as an idea, but support as an internal condition, a sense that your energy is working with you instead of being overridden. And once you start to feel that, you'll understand why everything else has felt hard, why you felt like your energy never stayed with you, why awareness helped, but it didn't hold, why clarity didn't translate into ease, and why discipline never resolved the tension, because none of those gave your energy a place to land, but this does. And when energy is supported, something changes at a fundamental level. Because you trust yourself differently, not because you changed, but because you're no longer asking your system to compensate. You're letting it move from steadiness instead of constant readiness. That's what real energy mastery feels like. Not control, not restraint, not perfection, but capacity. The capacity to move decisively without fragmentation. The capacity to decide without residue. The capacity to live inside days without racing against them. And once you experience that, you don't want to go back to the way things were before, because it finally starts to feel like this is how you were meant to move. So I want to slow this down for just a moment. I want you to pause long enough to notice what might be true for you right now. It's about the shift, what you can see, what your patterns are. Because once you start to catch yourself in those moments where you're in motion and you notice that you're also always supervising yourself, where you're doing the thing and you could feel that low level grip in your body, like you're keeping yourself contained so that you don't spill into too much, where you're productive, but your energy feels like it's being held together by tension, not carried by steadiness. That's when you begin to tell the difference between momentum that feels natural and momentum that feels managed. So I want to leave you with a few questions to sit with, not to answer perfectly, but just to notice what comes up, like your first thoughts. And if this is something that you can do, I encourage you to pause after each question and just allow yourself to answer. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just allow yourself to respond. Now, if you're driving, obviously you're doing something that you can't pause the podcast, then come back to this later and just really go through these questions. I highly encourage you to do that. So the first question is, where am I managing myself today, even when nothing is urgent? This is important because you could be managing yourself, not even realizing that you're managing everything. Like you could be managing things that don't need being managed because you've done things a million times before, and yet you're managing yourself. Where does your momentum feel like you're holding it together instead of being supported inside of it? Like, where does it feel like you're just holding things together, like you're grasping at energy, like you're on your second wind, right? Where do you feel like you're monitoring? What are you monitoring that no one is asking you to monitor? Because maybe you might have handed something off and you might be taking on the management of what someone else is doing. And as a high achiever, I get it because sometimes it's hard to let go of that control, but it's important for you to do it, especially if you hand something on to someone else. Yes, manage it later, but if you're constantly in the management of it while it's being done, that's taking eating up a lot of your energy and your time. Where do you keep proving that you can handle it when what you really want is to feel steady while you handle it, right? Like instead of just pushing, are you pushing through, not taking like just a moment to catch your breath, to close your eyes for a minute, to stretch your body, to allow yourself the tension to just kind of disappear instead of just pushing through? And if your energy had real structure underneath it, what would you stop bracing for? Because again, you could be bracing for your energy to crash. You could be bracing for the fact that you've been so busy in a week that your weekends that were meant for fun, connection, having, doing things for yourself, relaxing, have become those recovery days. And so you're not getting in that quality time that you want. Like if your energy, think about this, if your energy had structure built in to support it, how would you feel knowing that you were supporting yourself in a way so you can keep your pace clean, steady, on point, have energy that supports your day, have energy left over to enjoy the outside of work life that you're building? How would that feel? And again, there's no wrong answers here. I just want you to let your first answer be your answer, not a polished answer, but one that feels true for you right now when you whisper it to yourself. So allow yourself to answer these questions and be honest with yourself. I want you to take some time and really just answer these questions. Allow yourself to get true and honest and really tap into your awareness and start to understand, see what your habits have been, what's been maybe not supporting you the way you thought it was. And write these down so that you're able to actually figure out, like, okay, if isn't working for this is what I've been doing, but it's not working for me. What would life look like if I actually had a process in place that supported me so that I didn't have these days where I felt like I had to catch my breath, where I had to use my weekends to reset? What would that look like for you? Okay. If this episode helped you notice where your momentum's been being held together instead of supported, the next step is about clarifying what your energy actually needs underneath it. So here's what I want you to remember. As a high achieving woman, you don't say yes or make decisions because someone tells you to. You make decisions when something finally clicks, when you see yourself clear enough to recognize a pattern that's been running the show. And the moment that you're ready to shift it, right? If today's episode helped something snap into focus for you, if you caught yourself thinking, this is exactly what I do, where my energy goes. I'm managing myself. Or this is the moment my yes gets expensive because I'm saying yes to too many things, but I'm constantly in self-management. That matters because when your system shows you the pattern, that's your signal that it's time to shift. And the truth is, you can have the best intentions with what you want for your life. You can have the strongest work ethic. You can have the deepest self-awareness. But if you don't have a decision system in place and that's built to protect your energy in real time, you'll stay in cycles that don't support you, that don't support your time, and that don't support your energy. And that's where the yes reset method steps in. It becomes that internal checkpoint that replaces pressure-driven decisions with clarity-driven ones, not by slowing you down, but by giving you a decision framework that supports the way you actually function so that your yes stays clean, grounded, and energy protective instead of being on reflex, right? Where you're saying yes out of habit without really checking in. And if you're listening and you're thinking, I really actually want to see what this looks like in my life. I want to understand how this applies to the way I move through my day. Then I want to invite you to book a Yes Reset strategy call. It's not a sales call. It's a clarity conversation. It's where you and I'll sit down. We'll look at the way you're currently making decisions, where your energy is leaking, where your reflexes are overriding your intentions. Maybe you're managing your momentum, you're managing your pace, you're managing yourself, and where your peace is being shaped by habits that are not supporting the way you want to move. And we'll identify that, where your autopilot, yes, what it's costing you, and how applying the Yes Reset method can help you create the kind of clean, supported pace that you have been wanting, the kind where your yes actually works for you instead of against you. And you'll walk away understanding how your system's operating, how the patterns that are driving your energy drains, and what shifts will create the clean, aligned pace that you want to move at. So no pressure, just support that can help your decisions feel cleaner and less mentally expensive. So if today you felt that click, that moment of recognition, then the next step is book a Yes Reset strategy call with me, and the link to book is in the show notes. Now, as you move back into your day, this is what I want you to allow to anchor in. Nothing that you heard today was meant to change your pace. It was meant to clarify what's been happening underneath it. Your momentum was never the issue, and your capability was never in question. What I'm hoping you walk away with today is that you can see the distinction clearly, the difference between momentum that's being managed and momentum that's being supported. See, when your momentum's supported, it doesn't need constant attention. It doesn't require supervision. It doesn't ask you to hold everything together as you move. And that can change how your days unfold. This season doesn't have to start with urgency. It doesn't have to start with correction or pressure. It can start with steadiness. You can start this year on the right foot, the kind of steadiness that allows you to move quickly without bracing, bracing for having the moments where things crash, the kind that lets your decisions feel complete instead of lingering, the kind that allows your energy to stay with you throughout your day and beyond it. When your energy is supported, your movement becomes cleaner, your decisions become lighter, your days feel less fragmented, and that gives your momentum something solid to stand on. So as you move forward with your life, let some word, not self-correction, set the tone. Your momentum, again, doesn't require tightening. It requires support underneath it. Movement that's supported doesn't ask you to stay on top of yourself. It holds. And when your momentum's healthy instead of managed, your energy stays available for the life you're actually building, not just the pace required to build it. Thanks for tuning in today. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep believing, and keep designing your extraordinary life one day at a time.
Thank you for joining me on Her Extraordinary Life by Design. I hope you've been inspired and empowered by the incredible stories shared on this show. If you enjoyed this episode and the conversations we've had, I would greatly appreciate if you could take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback and support mean the world to me, and it will help others discover the podcast and join our empowering community. Remember to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Together, we can continue to learn from these amazing women, uncover their extraordinary journeys, and be motivated to create our own lives by design. Thank you again for tuning in. Until next time, stay empowered and keep shaping your extraordinary life one day at a time.
Welcome to the Candle Power Hour. Come with us backstage behind the scenes of show business spanning over 4 decades and bringing you the experiences that can only be told by the people who were there.
Our guests are from the A-list, the F-list, and everyone in between. Get set for some of the most insane, hilarious, and inspiring stories you will ever hear.
I'm Mercury.
And I'm Diego.
Your host for the Candle Power Hour.
It's me, Flo, the annoying clairvoyant from Ghost Hampton, the podcast. We had the time of our lives, or in my case, death, giving all our listeners the willies this summer. You missed Ghost Hampton? No, we can't allow that. Now, all episodes of Ghost Hampton are running on Electricast Media everywhere for free. Ghost Hampton, go there to be frightened, stay there to laugh.
Electricast.